Okay, let's start. Okay, we're starting. It's Dan. My bad. Yeah. Okay. All right. Starting. Dan. Novillo. Graphic novel stuff. An app to create a better form of the graphic novel. Maybe a way to monetize that graphic novel while you're working on it for a decade or something like that. So what you're looking at is what happens when I try to explain the whole event mechanism in Novillo. I actually sat and worked on this for 3 hours and I thought this is going to be so great. And then I kind of went for a coffee, I came back and I looked at this, I thought, you've lost your mind. So I'm not going to continue down this path, maybe I'll come back to it, you'll be sorry, but you were told. But I did find this process was useful for clarifying the direction I'm taking the code in Novillo right now. Novillo is facing kind of more practical problems of like, how do I make it good? How do I make it work? Instead of just struggling to get it to the point where it has things on the screen. So I'm pretty pleased. Yeah, I might return to this, but let's get started with looking at some of the code that I've been working on over the last, my guess it's like 48 hours now. So I'm just going to pop into the current frame that I want to edit in, which is the one that we've been looking at forever and ever, the one I always use, the house, the man, and the 3 figures on it. And now I'm in the editing area. Great, that's what I want. This is a very familiar place we've started from before. So the point of coming here is to show you that the script I've got, the function I've got on the left-hand side at the top there is what's running every time I tap one of those green buttons. So it's pretty easy to see. If I give you a little room here, I'll try to pull up the place where I can show you the feedback. But there's a function, it's called cat button tapped. So great name. And you can see that when I do tap those buttons, there's a whole bunch of stuff changes in the bottom of the coding area, which tells you the function's running, setting back some information, and a lot of this is just so I can keep an eye on what's going on. Okay, so this is good. This is a good sign. That cat button tapped is the starting point for one of 2 starting points for what I've been working on, an important starting point. It's all it tries to do is figure out if something happened, and then it tells somebody more important than it what, hey, something happened, and that other thing is about to be revealed. So that calls an event, a function called check event conflict. What we're trying to do here is make sure that when I start to edit the, in this case, line weight, I'm not also conflicting with another event that's also trying to set the value for line weight. Because that's been a problem in trying to demo this up till now. There's been no control system to make sure that one thing and one thing only is modifying any given object at a given time. So this is how we're doing it. It's a chain of 3 levels where we start off with that detecting the click. Now we send this to a part of the kind of palette that says, hey, a click, right? I know who to tell about this. And that's another event, and that's deeper down in the function. So you'll be able to see that. Here's the event, so forth. Now, where are we going to go with this? Well, you know that the name of this this project is called Turkey Monkey, the one that I edit. And you probably wonder, well, does he have an incredibly inventive idea about how to name things? It's a sort of one of the things he really does. And so hold on to your hats, because the function that check event conflict calls is called check event conflict. It's not the same function though. Isn't that amazing? It's actually a function down in the threads level. Threads are like one of the objects that we talked about in the UI introduction. And basically what this thread object does is it knows about any events along the way throughout the storyline, and it can find out very quickly, very efficiently, whether another event has happened and whether that event has introduced changes to the, in this case, line weight that are still underway. Because the event's here, and then it can be like a long period of time forward in the future when that change is finished. And so nothing else should come in and try to change it in between. So that's what that does. And right now we're working on a system where it can basically report back, and once it finds out if something is true, that yes, indeed it has found that out. So we can see that has now started to work. There's another piece of this, which is once that button is clicked, there's the area where you actually change the values of whatever it is you're editing. In this case, again, line weight. So there's a gray button there kind of below it, and when you swipe it right and left, it will start to update the values in the database for that thing that you got selected, or the multiple things you got selected. And that's not the good thing that we want to have happen if there's something else already changing the line weight. So what it does when we swipe it is reports back now, and it says, oh gee, I'm trying to enter this frame here. Is there anybody else trying to edit this? And basically it should get a message back saying, yeah, there is, don't do that. So basically what we'll do here, I'm just gonna have to do a little program on the fly to show you it's working. Getting to the end here, don't worry, not much more to this to show you today. But a little bit of programming on the fly, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a change to the code so that instead of just reporting an event once, it'll report every single time I swipe. And now the change is done, so what I've gotta do is just restart the app. That's coming up. Once it's up and we do all the familiar stuff, which just give me a minute here. We set it up, we're gonna go into the composition we want. We're gonna set the frame, the thread, and then the frame down at the bottom. We saw this yesterday again. And now that we have done all that, we can enter into the editing area, which we should see in a second. There we go. And now I can select that line weight, and when I start to do it, you'll see that a message starts streaming up, and it basically says there's a conflict. And because this is happening every time I try to swipe it even a little bit, I now know that there is proper detection of a collision between the two events. This is how a lot of programming actually works. You know, you end up being more concerned with just figuring out the conditions under which a simple thing will happen. The simple thing that will happen is I'll just say, oh, don't set any values, go back. And that's actually really easy. That's a line of code I'll add. What is hard is getting all of the conditionalities right, and that's what the last 48 hours have been about. Getting a conceptual map, like that really good one I showed you at the beginning, and then turning that into code so that I can then implement it so that the parts that are doing the work they do can get the messages they need and then take the action that they ought to. And this is how we get the job done. This is how this project is proceeding. And it's a little bit at a time on the left-hand side where we have the code, and a little bit on the other side where we see the nice pictures, and both are improving, but thanks for being patient. Okay, Dan, Novillo, the man who made it. Tell your children, I saw the man who made Novillo. And because they'll be doing nothing but reading novellas at that time. 2,000 years in the future, because we're all gonna live a long time. Not me, you can see it's too late for me. However, that's it. Thanks for watching, I'm out.